welcome to the first video of the trilogy I call The Naked Truth. Joining me here today are my co-hosts. They don't say much, but they seem to get a lot of attention nonetheless. Now, unfortunately, if you are watching this on YouTube, they are blurred out, so you can't really see them, but it doesn't matter, right? Because the only reason they're out here is so that y'all will listen to me because I have something really important to say. However, for those who want to watch an unedited version, I did create an OnlyFans account. The link is below, so feel free to start watching that version if you want to subscribe to my OnlyFans. If not, the most important thing here is the message. So just keep watching this version. I mean, really, who cares about boobs? So what the heck is the Naked Truth trilogy about? This trilogy is perfect for people who are, 1, sick and tired of the growing wealth gap in our country, 2, for people who want justice for the bullshit bank bailouts that happened in 2008, and 3, this trilogy is perfect for anybody who is curious about the growing AMC and GME financial movement / financial revolution that I really believe could lead to a massive transfer of wealth in our country, in this great nation, from the 1% to the, well, non-1%, we'll say. And probably you, right? Okay. Let me go ahead and give a little introduction to what each of the videos are going to be about. The first video is going to be more or less a cathartic rant about the failures of our systems of governance. Now, this hits me really hard because as an Army veteran, I didn't fight for some bullshit con job Ponzi scheme of a government that perpetuates an environment where 1% of the population own 33% of all the wealth. It's such bullshit. The second video will be a very basic introduction to the AMC and GME stock squeeze situation. Now, this situation is, I believe, a major catalyst that can finally turn things around in our country so that wealth is more evenly distributed. The third video of the Naked Truth series will be about the possibilities of what can come after a massive transfer of wealth and what that could mean for our country moving forward. Now, before I move forward and get started with the first video, I do have a couple pieces of housekeeping that I need to get off my chest. First piece of housekeeping is this. I know that some of you will be compelled to judge me. The truth is, it took a lot of soul searching actually to get all girls gone wild for all of you for this trilogy. Simply put, I want your attention just because I have something really fucking important to tell you. And if my breasts will get you to listen to me, then so be it. So be it. I mean, it's the world we live in, and I'm not going to pretend that that's not true, you see. It is what it is. It is what it is. Okay, no more boob puns. I'm a nerd for puns, but that's enough. I apologize. Call it a gimmick. Call me an attention whore. Call me whatever the fuck you want. But what you won't be able to call me is a coward. And you won't be able to call me an American woman, an American veteran woman who doesn't respect her country enough to exercise her free right to speech. So, if you can help it, stop worrying about what I've stripped off of my body and really start to think about what's been stripped from you and your family. Okay? How about that? Second piece of housekeeping is this. I am not a financial advisor. So what I'm saying is not financial advice and should not be taken as such. In fact, I'm an English major and I'm just simply raging against a corrupt and divisive machine of governance known as, well, our government. But personally, I will say that I have been buying AMC stock now since January. Since then, I've come to realize that while I initially came to make some money, what I ended up staying for was a financial revolution. Now, to learn more about that, please be sure to watch the second video of the Naked Truth trilogy called What is Up with the AMC and GME stock thing. Okay, so now that housekeeping is over and done and I got all that stuff off of my chest, let's go ahead and move on to video 1, why we need a financial revolution. I guess first thing I want to talk about is how interesting it is that certain crimes in this country aren't really crimes and therefore somehow goes unpunished because it's of the white collar variety of crime. Like, did anyone go to prison after the financial crisis of 2008? You know, when the hedonistic greed and predatory lending practices of banks and other financial institutions caused millions of Americans to lose their homes, their jobs, and their retirement. Meanwhile, you have people being put in privatized prisons for simply possessing marijuana. Whatever, what's fair is fair in the land of the free, am I right? Now, just in case you still believe in the sanctity of the status quo, let me just tell it to you plainly that the bare and naked truth of the matter is this. In the same way that my lovely breasts are glorious, yet artificial, so is the illusion of the fairness in our financial markets, where acts of #financial treason are just a part of daily business. The costs associated with breaking laws and not abiding by policies, it's just a part of the cost of doing business. In fact, it almost seems as though it's a type of bribe. I mean, a source of revenue for some of our financial regulatory systems, collecting all of these fees and whatnots from the likes of Citadel whenever they repeatedly disregard policies that are meant to keep our markets fair and not corrupt. I just wonder why this type of leniency isn't available to drug dealers who are likewise running an economy, albeit an alternative system of economy. Oh, right. The privatized prison system needs prisoners in order to function. Just as an aside, one could argue that the existence of alternative economic systems, such as drug or sex trafficking, would be less of an issue if the actual economy was working fairly for the betterment of all. Just saying. We, the people, and millions of others in the world, entrust and invest our hard-earned and heavily taxed dollars into the stock market, so that one fine, sweet, glorious day, we can finally stop the insanity of trading in our hours for a handful of dimes and to do something that makes us happy. Like, wouldn't it be nice
if we could rest assured that those systems were
working fairly and that they worked properly, since our literal lives depend on it? Sadly, it isn't. And it doesn't. I'll put links below in the description to videos made by smarter and more knowledgeable people to help elaborate on how and why the markets are corrupt. Here's what I can tell you. All the bullshit in our country isn't really about the divisive nature of, say, red versus blue, or black versus white, or men versus women. Yes, I acknowledge that those are divisive social issues that clearly cause many of us a lot of pain. I get it. After all, I am an immigrant woman of color. But what I'm saying, though, is that our division is just a purposeful illusion. Here's what I've come to recognize. All that divisive stuff, that's all just smoke and mirrors that strategically keep us, we the people, divided And when we're divided, that makes us weak and that makes us malleable. The truth is, most of America is in pain. Regardless of the color of your skin or the color of your political affiliation, there is pain everywhere. And we really need to recognize that in each other. So what this bare-breasted bitch is trying to tell you is that it's about damn time that we, the people, the 99% who make up this great nation, start to focus on the real issue in this country, which is, how can we take our power back from those who wield power against us? And what can you do to effectively rage against this machine while choosing to love your neighbor? Like I said earlier, as an Army veteran, I didn't fight for the 1%. I didn't. What percentage of the elites have ever served in the military, I wonder? Meanwhile, we the people who do the real work in creating this economy, this robust economy and a robust culture, the bottom 50%, well, we own only 2% of the wealth. And honestly, this is stuff you've probably already heard. And for some reason, we've all just agreed to be okay with this, as long as we get our shitty little piece of the stale American apple pie, as if it's fair. You guys remember what happened in 2008, don't you? Well, let me give you a little refresher. While the 2008 financial crisis can be blamed on a variety of factors as well as willful participants, at the end of the day, it was the unregulated greed of banks and other money managers, such as hedge funds, that systematically drove the demand, supply, and investor appetite for these empty, ridiculous mortgage-backed securities. Keyword, unregulated. Therefore, I personally believe that the Federal Reserve is to blame for the Great Recession of 2008, because not only was it responsible for creating the conditions that led to the financial crisis, it also perpetuated the crisis by not doing enough to stop it. And if you forgot what the 2008 financial crisis looked like, well, let me remind you. With the crash of the housing market, the stock market eventually crashed in September of that year, which ultimately meant that it lost half of its value. And what did this mean for the American people? It meant that 1 out of 4 American families lost at least 75% of their wealth. And 50% of all families lost at least 25% of their wealth. Let those numbers sink in for just a sec. Because that isn't even the shittiest part of the story. After American families suffered massive losses of wealth due mostly to government deregulation and the predatory lending practices on Wall Street, you would think that some of the first steps our national leadership would have and should have taken were to, 1, help families restore their losses by providing them with the necessary financial resources as well as educational resources so that they can better manage their wealth and not fall victim to predatory lending practices. 2, prosecute those who willfully partook in negligent practices, knowing that it would have catastrophic consequences on our economy. 3, enact legislation that vow to better regulate financial institutions so that this shit doesn't happen again. But we all know that that's not what happened. Instead, the government allotted resources that were used to immediately bail banks out of their bad investments by lending them billions of dollars. It took over half a year before something was enacted to help the American people who were the victims of this crisis. In February 2009, over 6 months later, government funds were finally used to help homeowners refinance and restructure their mortgages to allow them to keep their homes, to stay current on their payments and avoid foreclosure. And then soon after, President Barack Obama proposed the stimulus package known as ARPA, designed to spur consumer spending and restore confidence. Too little, too late, in my mind. Fast forward to 2021, and guess what? Those greedy goblins on Wall Street haven't learned their damn lesson. And sadly, neither has our government. I guess that's what happens when you don't get punished, or there's absolutely minimal consequences for your bullshit. Today, it's the same bullshit, different stock. But this time, there is a real and pragmatic way that we the people can work together to get the justice that we did not get in 2008. Let me give you 4 steps in how we can get this done. Step 1, stop it with the tribal shit. For example, I'm not a Democrat anymore. Fuck that. There's a reason why a normal, humanistic, forward-thinking person like Andrew Yang can't get a win in politics. And so I hereby unsubscribe to the political party who refuses to accept him as a real contender. And clearly, I'm certainly not a Republican. I am an American. And what this American wants, and what I think most of you hardworking people out there want, is to live in a country that cultivates an environment where you can thrive in your communities, where you can feed and clothe your families and give them shelter comfortably, and where we can feel connected to each other. I just want you to think about all the things that you want for yourselves and your family. You know, safety, a nice home, the ability to put food on the table, to provide your family healthy and nutritious meals, to be able to put a smile on your kids' faces when you can get them what they want for Christmas or their birthdays or whatever holiday you celebrate. Think about those things. And then I want you to think about why you would ever want to deny those things for other people, regardless of their race, their religion, or their love interest. Yeah, the powers on Capitol Hill and Wall Street work together to take our money and our time with impunity. And that makes us angry. And somehow they've convinced us to be angry with each other, which is ridiculous. So fine, they've taken our money, they've taken our life force, but for the love of Goddess, don't let them take your humanity too. Which brings me to step 2. Be kind to each other. The stronger, healthier, and smarter that we the people become, the less lies and false truths that these parasites of the system on Capitol Hill and their media shells can tell us and make us believe. Which means the less likely they'll be able to live their lives of luxury by stealing the shirt off of your back and sucking your life force with their bullshit shenanigans like bank bailouts and the naked shorting of over-leveraged stocks. Hey, but at least Juneteenth is a holiday now. Yay! Let's throw a party where I jump out of a cake dressed like a fucking donkey, and then we can go around and pat ourselves on the back for voting blue no matter who. Whatever. All that does is give banks another day off, while the rest of us with private employers lose another floating holiday. Now, for those who want real change and real reform, well, we're gonna have to find a way to do that shit together. But we can't do that acting the way we are right now. We can't get stronger, we can't get healthier, and we can't get smarter if we're constantly tearing each other down over some bullshit. So we, the people, have to come together. Because if it's not us, then who? There is no Superman. There's no Batman. There's only we, the people. Step 3. Learn about the GME and AMC stock squeeze situation. This historical, never before seen financial, cultural, and humanitarian movement / revolution presents a real opportunity where we, the people, can turn things around for the better, not just for ourselves individually, but for our entire country altogether. You may have heard of it already, but if not, well, that's not an accident. It's by design. In fact, the only reason that it's making mainstream news now here and there is because it's gotten completely out of hand and they can't just simply ignore it anymore. Again, let's think back to 2008. No one took that shit seriously until, well, it was too late. I'll tell you this much. If I felt that enough people knew about this, like really knew about this, I wouldn't be out here with my tits out. There is about to be a major transfer of wealth in our country, and it involves the heavy shorting of AMC and GME stocks. The burning question is whether our elected officials will once again choose to serve these greedy Wall Street goblins by changing the rules mid-game in order to prevent we the people from finally getting a win in a severely rigged game. It's as simple as that. It really is. It's not complicated. In my mind, the fact that our government seems to be helping to stall the inevitable squeeze of these stocks is the same thing as openly declaring to the world that our financial markets are rigged and that they're okay with it. Yeah, I get it. Putin wants to divide the country because, divided, we're weak and all of this, right? I kind of went over that with you already. So yeah, sure, he wants to divide us. But to me, an openly corrupt financial market knowingly perpetuated by our government, likewise poses a significant threat to our national security, don't you think? Step 4. Stop believing that you're too dumb to know what's going on. Because guess what? You're not dumb and you're not insignificant. As we, the people, come together, we are also becoming smarter, thanks to those who share their time, their research, and knowledge with the rest of us. Please check out the description below where I will try and lead you to the right people who have emerged as leaders in this movement. They're awesome. Speaking of knowledge, did you know that our Treasury printed trillions of dollars in 2020? In fact, many sources are saying that over 20% of all the money right now was printed last year. 20%. This means that for every $4 floating around, there is a brand new $1 bill floating around too, ready to cause inflation. Yet, there's been no real talk about inflation. Nothing honest anyway. I mean, how is that possible? You cannot increase the total amount of currency by over 20% without some kind of a significant inflation effect, right? Again, I'm an English major, so don't hold me up as an expert on this, but that shit just doesn't make sense to me. But meanwhile, only some of we the people received just under $5,000 in stimulus to help us through an entire year of a global pandemic. Under $5,000, and not even all of us got that. In case you've forgotten, Student loans still aren't forgiven, and healthcare still isn't free. So where did all that money go? That's not a rhetorical question. I really want to know what happened to all that money. Here's something that I think you should know. There's strong speculation shared by many people who know this stuff better than I do, that there are clear signs that point toward another financial crisis. The funny, not funny thing is that the hedge fund bought media have already started to blame this brewing financial mess on regular retail investors like myself, just for having the audacity to play their stupid games and potentially win. In spite of their bullshit illegal shenanigans like naked shorting, yeah. They're trying to push the narrative that retail investors are manipulating the system just because we talk about what stocks we're thinking of buying on social media. Seriously? That's all it takes to make a mess out of our unwavering and stalwart financial market? Just a bunch of dumb money talking to each other on Reddit? Dumb money. I mean, the level of douchebaggery pretentiousness that reaches is just simply astrophysical. Their argument is that dumb money is playing a major role in the gamification of the United States stock market. Like, what the fuck is up with that cognitive dissonance? Are we the people dumb money? Or are we the people so financially sophisticated that we can strategically cause a massive financial crisis just by having public discussions on Reddit? Which one are we? Dumb or brilliant? Because we can't be both. What I think is that just like their woeful short positions in AMC and GME, financial institutions like Citadel seem to always want to go short on we the people. As for me, I'll go long on the American people all motherfucking day. Here's my long argument. What's the usual cause, historically speaking, for why our financial systems have crashed or experienced crisis? Is it because we the people decided to have discussions with each other about which stocks we think are good to buy? No, I don't think that's ever been disastrous for our financial markets. Or does the relentless greed and the unwavering superiority complex of these greedy goblins on Wall Street seem to always preface a financial crisis? Now, you may or may not remember this about 2008, but when protesters posted up in front of Wall Street to express their anger about what had happened and also to protest against the immediate bank bailouts, some of these more soulless goblins working on Wall Street literally laughed and toasted champagne glasses in celebration of their bailouts right in the faces of the pained protesters who suffered massive financial losses. These protesters were hardworking Americans just like you, just like me, who, whether it was them or their parents, lost their jobs, houses, and retirement due to the greedy and unpunished negligence of these large and depraved financial institutions. These parasites of the system brazenly and without conscience laughed and mocked the pain of our fellow Americans while drinking fucking champagne. Are we okay with that? Are we okay that that happened? And that, ladies, gents, and others, is precisely why we need a financial revolution. Thank you for your time, and I hope you join me in my next video. Peace and namaste.